I think that the United States is creating war to boost its economy, and they do that by feeding the military-industrial complex. When we go to war, then we need supplies. Military-industrial complex companies make those supplies, they make technology, then whatever it is that they're making, the logistics companies, and then it starts the cycle.
Well, two more things I really wanted to ask you. One is the military-industrial complex. You've mentioned this a couple of times, and I'm super interested in it because as someone who's deployed to Afghanistan, deployed in wars, had my father in wars, my grandfather, like 84 years of my family, my sons, having gone to combat, and then as a humanitarian going to different war zones, working in places like Ukraine. I don't support the billions of dollars that U.S. is sending to Ukraine, but I do support helping people that can't help themselves. But I shouldn't have to be there. Nonprofits shouldn't have to be there helping people that can't help themselves. And I believe the United States has provoked and antagonized people. I believe our administration has created scenarios to start wars, and all that ties to the military-industrial complex of warmongers in Washington, D.C., these neocons that want war and they profit off of war, and the lobbyists. I probably said it all in my question, but what's your thoughts on that?
I think that the United States is creating war to boost its economy, and they do that by feeding the military-industrial complex. Because when we go to war, then we need supplies. Military-industrial complex companies make those supplies, they make technology, then whatever it is that they're making, the logistics companies, and then it starts the cycle, and so when we exit a war, economy starts to slip because that's such a important piece of real estate when it comes to our economy. That's why I think we do it. And I think it's gotten out of control, and I don't think we're the good guys anymore.
No, unfortunately, as a very proud patriot, by the way, and I think you are too. We're not the good guys anymore when it comes to this. We make decisions that are not in the best interest of the United States, first of all, and cost hundreds of thousands of lives in places that we don't belong. Over almost 1 million people have been killed in Ukraine, and I would argue with anyone that the reason Russia went into Ukraine in the first place, and Ukraine is being attacked in the way they are, and the reason civilians are dying there is because of the way the United States responded to it and allowed it, and now incentivizing it. And there's so much corruption and the lobbying, and you mentioned Dick Cheney and KBR and Iraq.
Yeah, you have to educate the public too. Right. It's not just the economy. Yes, we go to war. These companies make new technologies, they make new products, they make new fighter jets, whatever it is, right? And then they have to employ thousands and thousands of people to get that done. Well, it also is it's also lobbyists. Hey, right. Vote this in so that we can go to war, so that we can produce this to make these people richer, make our politicians richer than they already are. And so it's I don't think there's any good anymore that's kind of coming from that. No. It is all stems from greed, and people are dying.
Yeah, it's costing people's lives.
Millions of people are dying because of this. Yeah. And you can't sit here and look at this country and tell me that this is for the better. You can't tell me that our politicians have our best interests, right or left. Why are we so engaged outside of our country when in-house? We don't even have to talk about the divisive, like the border, right? Mm-hmm. Which I don't know why is divisive, right. But look at the roads.
Yeah.
Look at the poverty in our country. We'll go to California and look at that mental health crisis that's just festering and growing and getting bigger. And look at the migration that's happening in this country. You'd be lucky to find an OG Tennessean in this state. It's all people from California, New York, Chicago, and they're fleeing.
Yeah, they're escaping there.
But it's like, what's a carton of eggs now? Like $8? It was like $2.65 a couple years ago.
Yeah. Not according to the press secretary.
You can't tell me that we should be sending all our money over. Look at this place. It's a disaster.
Yeah. There's no trajectory.
Chicago's like one of the most dangerous places on the planet.
Maybe we should move to El Salvador. It sounds like the leadership might have figured it out.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's my thoughts. And so, I mean, the Dick Cheney thing, like, we have to give context behind that if we're going to bring it up. Look, Dick Cheney was the CEO of Halliburton.
Right.
KBR is a subsidiary company to Halliburton. Dick Cheney was then the vice president of the United States. And then almost...
Major shareholder.
Yeah, right? And then we use KBR for the logistics company in Iraq and Afghanistan, while Dick Cheney is the vice president. You think that's just a coincidence?
Yeah, major military DoD contractor.
Yeah, so let's talk about, you were there, KBR, chow halls, mail runs, all the building, fuel cells, every piece of logistics in country, in Iraq and Afghanistan, was KBR Halliburton.
Yeah.
Whose previous
billions
CEO
of dollars
just happens to be the vice president of the United States. You don't think this was a setup? Give me a break, dude.
Yeah.
Pull your head out of your ass and wake up.
Yeah.
I didn't know that when we were in.
No.
I probably wouldn't have cared. No, I would have cared.
Yeah.
I was young. But now looking back, it's like, how did everybody miss this?
Well, yeah, and this is stuff that journalists should be talking about.
They can't.
They can't. So at this stage in your life, like, knowing what you know now, how do you process your service, your time deploying, and things like that?
When it comes to the military-industrial complex,
that's right,
and all the stuff we just talked about, Dick Cheney,
yes,
and all these other companies. Look, we were there as a country for the wrong reasons. We went to Iraq, we destroyed it. We went to Afghanistan, we destroyed it. But we were there for the right reasons. And even with all the shit that the United States put us into that we probably shouldn't have been in, look at all the good things that happened because people like you and I were there. Women were able to vote. Women were able to get an education in these places where that was unheard of, never been heard of, in places like this. And there was a lot of women's rights that happened. There was a lot of, there were a lot of bad people in both of those theaters that did get eliminated. And so we were able to give those people a glimpse of what life could look like if they fight for their freedom, and once you taste that, you never forget it.
That's right.
And so that's how I process it, is we were there for the right reasons. Most of us were.
Yeah, as service members.
And a lot of good happened because we were there.
I agree with you 100%.
No credit to the U.S. government, though.
No.
So
no. This is a tough one. I struggle with this one right now. I have two sons that served as Marines. One served in Afghanistan, the other still in. And I get asked this question a lot. What would you tell a young man or woman right now that's thinking about joining the military, if they should or should not join because of our administration, because of the types of the things our government's involved in? Is the United States military still worth serving in?
Man, that's a tough one. We live here, so I'm going to be honest, and I can't even believe I'm saying this, but I'm very torn on that question or the answer to that question. And one, I would say it comes down to a couple things. Look around you and see what the military values are now. And if that aligns with you, then join. And if it doesn't, then maybe you shouldn't. If you do join and they don't align with you, well, then remember that when you get up there in the ranks, because what seems to happen to everybody is they get in and you get these lifers, officers, and they stay in there for 20 plus years and they start making policies, and the policies aren't made for the betterment of the unit, the betterment of the military, the betterment of national security. They're made for the betterment of what that person's going to do when they leave. Are they going to go work for Lockheed Martin and get a multi-million-dollar year salary? You know, are they going to get paid off by some lobbyist, some in DC? And that's where it all starts to change, you know. And so when you do join, if you are going to stay in for life and you do start hitting those ranks, then keep that in mind when you get up there, because that's the only thing that is going to get this to turn around, is getting some leaders in there that have a spine.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. I'm torn. I've talked to so many career military guys, particularly from the special operations community, that have sons, and they're advising their sons not to join. And it's I get it, but it's scary to me because I love our country, and we have to have a military service, right? We have to. You can't have a country without having a military to protect it. And
here's
so
the good news: we got a Second Amendment, right?
Yeah.
And so if anybody invades this country, guess what? We're all in the military now.
We're all in it. Yeah. We are.
But you don't have to join to go fight whoever is in office their war so that they can get paid by the military industrial complex companies to start a war.